the Virgin Mary, baby Jesus.
Psst, Margaret, can I ask you something?
Not now, Mary. We're in the middle of the intro.
2 saints, a goldfinch,
Margaret.
I'm busy right now.
2 angels, and 1 teeny tiny butt.
Margaret,
What is it?
what are you kneeling on?
What the? This piece is called The Virgin and Child with Saints Louis and Margaret, a painting the National Gallery just acquired for £16.4 million, or about $22 million, with the help of the American Friends of the National Gallery, London. But here is what's truly bizarre about it. Oh, no. I wasn't talking about that. What's strange is that nobody knows who the heck painted it. A scene like this of the Virgin and Child flanked by saints wasn't exactly groundbreaking in the Renaissance, but this one definitely feels a bit different in the best possible way. The devil's in the details with this one, so let's take a closer look at this piece. We're placed in what appears to be an open-air chapel. Blue skies, wispy clouds, and a little tree peeks through in the background between square columns. Our eyes are immediately drawn to the Virgin Mary seated in the center of the painting, holding baby Jesus in her lap. She gently pinches a sprig of tiny white flowers, likely a symbol of purity. Baby Jesus grips a European goldfinch with both of his hands. The goldfinch is probably meant to foreshadow Christ's future martyrdom because, according to Christian folklore, a goldfinch flew down during the crucifixion and tried to remove a thorn from his crown of thorns, when a drop of Christ's blood landed on the bird's head, staining it red, which is supposedly why all the goldfinches have that distinctive red marking on their heads. Baby Jesus glances over at... Oh. Whoa. Sorry, I got a little scared for a second. Baby Jesus glances over at a man wearing a blue robe to the left of the painting. This is the King of France, Saint Louis. His features are so specific that art historians believe this is meant to be an actual portrait of him. He wears a collar of the French Order of Saint Michael, which was the French royal order. His robe is embroidered with gold fleur-de-lis, a historic symbol of the French monarchy. And can we just take a moment to appreciate the rendering of that gold thread? Amazing. In his left hand, he holds a scepter topped with what looks like a tangled group of tiny bodies, possibly a nod to the Last Judgment. Flanking the Virgin and Child are 2 angels making music. The angel on the right holds a hymnal open to the hymn, Hail, Queen of Heaven, Hail, Lady of Angels, a well-known Catholic hymn dedicated to Mary. The painting is so detailed, you can make out the musical notes on the page, though strangely they're not the actual notes to the hymn. The angel to the left of the painting is playing a mouth harp, also known as a jaw harp, which is a choice, especially because this is what it sounds like. I feel like the artist may have been trolling with that one. But now I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Craftsy. Craftsy is your online resource for all things creative. It's an online community where millions of crafters, makers, and DIY enthusiasts find creative inspiration, advance their skills, and learn new ones along the way. One reason I turn to any kind of craft or hobby is to unwind. But when you're trying something new, it can sometimes feel like this.
I can't relate. I'm really good at everything immediately.
Me too. I made this crown of flowers on my head and it didn't even budge when I went through the bowels of...
Shh, Margaret. Too much.
Anyway, Craftsy completely calms any overwhelming feelings you might have. Craftsy offers over 2,000 inspiring classes for makers of all skill levels with step-by-step instruction in more than 20 categories like knitting, baking, sewing, painting, and so much more. I also find the instructors to be very warm and welcoming, which is amazing. I'm really trying to get in the habit of drawing every day, so Patricia Watwood's 7 days of drawing class has been great for me. I love homemade Christmas decorations, so I'm kind of obsessed with the whole Christmas in July thing they're doing right now. now, and I would love to learn to sew, so that'll be next for me. And thanks to Craftsy, you too can experience the satisfaction and joy of creating something truly one of a kind with your own two hands. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. This is available for new members only. Thank you again to Craftsy for sponsoring this video. Now back to what I was saying, which was, oh yeah, that. The biblical tidbits continue when we glance above the group to the figures carved into the pillars. Each one contains different stories from the Old Testament. There's the story of the grapes of Canaan, Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and on the right side of the painting, we see a puto showing us his butt. If we just looked at the top half of this painting, it would look like any other painting of that period. Well, except for the extreme foreshortening of their faces, which is giving me serious Uncanny Valley vibes. And while we're on the topic of icks, can I just say that this hand is making me feel really weird. But the strangest thing about this painting, But what is that drooling doggy monster photo bombing from the floor? This is Satan. And you know what they say, any day is a good day for some Satan lore, so here goes nothing. According to legend, Saint Margaret was imprisoned for refusing to renounce her faith when Satan showed up in dragon form and swallowed her whole. That's supposed to be a dragon?
Yes, Mary. Must you always interrupt when the story is just getting good?
I'm no stranger to miracles, but even I don't believe that's a dragon.
Jesus Christ, that's annoying.
Margaret.
I'm sorry, Mary. I never should have said that.
Back to what I was saying. Satan showed up in the form of a dragon and swallowed Saint Margaret whole. But she was holding this, a cross, which irritated the dragon's insides so much that he burst open. We can even see the cracking in his shell where she's kneeling on it. Saint Margaret just miraculously survived an attack by Satan, and she looks like that. Her braided hair is wrapped in a delicate sequined hairnet, and for someone who just emerged from the bowels of hell, her hair isn't even wet, and her outfit is very luxurious, and also dry. She wears a garland of blue and white daisies, classic purity symbols, and a nod to her status as patron saint of pregnant women. A dove perches on her shoulder, referencing a lesser-known legend where the heavenly dove crowns her as a sign of divine favor. This painting is truly iconic, and I would argue what makes it so is this guy. His snout is sort of like a dog, with whiskers like a lion. Drool drips from his fangs onto scales that also make him look like a sea monster. He's supposed to be the embodiment of evil, but why do I kind of feel bad for him? His scrunched up face is weirdly endearing, and his bloodshot eyes look like he's about to cry. He looks like he's rotting. He looks like he smells like rotten eggs. But he also looks kind of cute, like a sad, wet dog who just needs pets, or potentially a trip to the vet. And beside the dragon, we catch a glimpse of bright, unfinished wooden steps. They're a nice touch texturally, but feel very out of place in a scene where everything looks so expensive. But this might be the point. They could be there to remind us of the cross, which symbolizes the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, especially since the nails are so prominently displayed. So this is a $21.8 million painting, and no one knows who painted it. Nobody really knows where it was painted, but there are some clues. The first is that this painting is painted on Baltic oak, which supports the idea that it might be Netherlandish. French artists at the time usually used locally sourced wood, so importing oak from the Baltics would have been unusual and expensive for someone working in France. But then the King of France is present in the painting, which definitely complicates things. A dendrochronological analysis, basically tree ring dating, shows the oldest visible ring is from 1483. Artists typically let oak season for about 15 to 20 years before using it, which means that the piece was likely painted sometime in the early 1500s. Another clue is in St. Louis's collar. The collar of the Order of St. Michael was redesigned in 1516, and the version he's wearing in the painting is the pre-1516 style. Putting these clues together, this painting was probably made before 1516 based on the collar, and after 1500 according to the wood. And for that reason, the National Gallery settled on about 1510. This painting reminds me a lot of Jan van Eyck. That obsessive attention to detail, the way they make you practically feel the textures, the shiny metal, the glistening hair. Despite the serious subject matter, Netherlandish paintings of this era loved sneaking in playful details that bring scenes like this to life. The eccentricity of this painting, as well as the dramatic foreshortening of the faces, isn't unlike the earlier works of Netherlandish painter Jan Gossart. And in fact, when this painting first appeared in the historical record in 1803, it was actually attributed to him. But over time, scholars started having their doubts. The National Gallery notes that the overall sense of plasticity, monumentality, and strong shadows recall the work of French painters like Jean Hay, but still nobody knows for sure. This painting would have originally served as an altarpiece, a sacred artwork placed behind or above an altar to provide a devotional backdrop during Mass. This painting was first documented in 1602 at the Premonstratensian Abbey of Drouin in Ghent, Belgium. We don't know for sure if that's where it was originally commissioned, but it's plausible, especially considering the saints featured. The monks there had a special devotion to St. Louis because he had allowed their Catholic order to use the fleur-de-lis in their coat of arms. And in 1608, they dedicated an altar to the Virgin Mary and St. Margaret. And if you look closely in the background, there is a swan, the original symbol of that abbey. Coincidence or another clue? I don't know. Emma Capron, associate curator of Renaissance painting at the National Gallery, described this painting as full of iconographical oddities and called it wildly inventive. They're hopeful that ongoing research and now public display will help crack the mystery of who actually painted it. So, where do you think this painting came from? Any guesses on the artist? Because the gallery, the one that just paid a shark ton of money for it, would genuinely like to know. And honestly, I love that. I love that they bought it purely because it's extraordinary, not because of who signed it. I also appreciate that they didn't shy away from it because it was a little weird, but chose it for that very reason. If you ever find yourself in London, I would definitely recommend checking out the National Gallery. They have a surprising number of paintings I've covered on this channel, and now they have this thing too. What do you think about this acquisition? I'm honestly obsessed with this painting. I love the use of blue and red. It looks so rich and regal. I love the obsessive attention to detail, and I really love that whoever painted this clearly had a sense of humor and probably owned a scrunchy-faced, short-nosed dog of some kind.